plastic brings a lot of benefits because its functionality at an affordable cost is unbeatable by any material. So I think the universe has given us certainly a wonder material because it is available such an affordable rate. Nobody has bothered about establishing a real life for it and the collection mechanism for it.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first edition of Bending the Lines, a circular lens of industries. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Shashwat Gangwal and I'm the founder of Infinity Box. It is my earnest request to all of you to tune in and spread the word. Because after all the pandemics and the wars end, one war which we will always be fighting for is the one for our planet and for our future generation. Our guest today is Mr. Ramaya Muthu Subramaniam. He is a packaging leader with over 3 decades of experience in the FMCG sector. He previously served as the program director for sustainable flexible packaging at Unilever, having started his career way back in 1993. His experience includes packaging sustainability R&D, supply chain technology and planning, and packaging procurement in Asia and Africa. Pursuing his passion for the packaging phase, Mr. Ramaya joined Packfora, a packaging expertise company, as its CEO and is working towards making it the go-to place for packaging expertise. Welcome everyone to today's episode on the FMCG space. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ramaya. It's an absolute privilege to be in your presence.
Hey, thank you, Shashwat, for inviting us to share our thoughts. I think it's a great platform, and I wish you your team great, grand success. I think it's a important area that's emerging, and your focus in packaging sustainability. I really appreciate. Will take you a long way.
Thank you so much for those kind words. See, you have been in the packaging industry for 3 decades. I mean, that by itself is a huge thing to be applauded, and we all congratulate you on that. But I think what would be extremely helpful for our listeners, especially from you, right? You know the industry in and out. So, first of all, how has your personal journey been in the packaging industry, and more importantly, how has the landscape changed? Because I don't think there is anybody who would know it better than you.
Thank you, Shashwat. I just want to bring a small, experience of mine to drive home the point. When I first joined, the company that I used to work for in India, it's a global corporate. I used to work for Unilever, and in the beginning of my career, or in the mid '90s, they sent me for a government sponsored. German Chambers of Commerce, meeting, and I was young. And at that point of time, German Chambers of Commerce talked a lot about Green Dot. Distinctly remember. So I would say the journey of packaging, waste management, and value creation started across the world around the time I entered my career. So I, at that point of time, it sounded a bit of alien to me, and because we were all focusing on uh, reaching the product with appropriate barrier to consumers to extend its product shelf life and affordability. I think there is a lot of good work packaging has done, and my personal belief is packaging has kind of helped the overall population growth to move from 1.5 billion to 7 billion, and it's playing an important enabler of reaching affordable food solutions to a large population size across the world. Yeah. So to answer your question, therefore, uh, in mid '90s, the sustainability was being talked about a country, out of 200 countries in the world, and they have taken the vision forward. Whereas I think after 30 years, it has kind of hit the roof, and we are all realizing how important it is. So, two comments there. One, uh, any change in the universe takes time, but the key challenge is how do we bring down the 3 decades of wait period to realize that there is something to be done on waste management to help packaging still continues to play its role, but it doesn't seen as a waste in the planet.
Correct. So that's amazing, right? So I mean, it's actually quite interesting to know that it started in 1990, right? I don't think I was aware of that. So very helpful to know that. And is that why you're so invested in the packaging space, because of your exposure to such, let's say, innovative techniques and such visions that existed when a lot of other people weren't aware of it?
See, absolutely, precisely, and because the way I see, packaging, because I don't know how many of the audience know that packaging is a 1 trillion economy. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a large marketplace, and it is playing a very, very, probably in terms of enabling the overall global economy. I think it's playing a very crucial role of movement of goods to reaching the product in safe hands, to enhancing the shelf life of perishable products, to even the life-saving drugs, devices reaching to the patients in a novel way. All that is being done through some form of further thinking and development of packaging. So, packaging
Right.
started as a mere carrier of product from point A to point B. Today, packaging is integral part of the product consumption ritual. So that's the milestone it has achieved in a very short period of time, and therefore we certainly see an opportunity to bring our expertise and help our customers to take it forward to the next level.
Wow, that's very insightful. Thank you so much for that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us did not know that packaging is a 1 trillion economy, and I think it's going to grow a lot as well. There is no doubt about that, given the world that we live in and the different avenues that are opening up. But you see, one thing that I keep hearing, and I think you'll agree with me here, is that plastic is bad, right? That's what people keep telling me, and I could not disagree with them more. See, according to many of the industry experts, the part of the plastic problem is that material is perceived to have no value, right? Unlike glass or aluminium, it is often thrown away instead of being recycled. And that is further broken down into two issues, right? One is this perception issue amongst the consumers, and the second is that we don't have the infrastructure. So what I mean by perception is that people perceive that plastic does not have value, and that is, and I can quote a lot of companies on that, right? If you talk about Coca-Cola, for example, I'm quoting a corporate sustainability manager here. She said that we don't think that our packs are single use, but our consumers still do. Most of our consumers still do. And the second thing which I brought up, which is infrastructure, is that despite the fact that these plastic packaging items, right, like even for all FMCG companies, for plastic food containers, there is no robust supply chain across the world to collect them back. It is so light, and when you're talking about in a country like India, it is so light that rag pickers do not pick them up as they're paid by the kg. And these two problems make people believe that plastic inherently is bad, which is why there are so many issues building up around packaging. And both of these are like inherently not an issue with plastic, right? So I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on this entire dilemma that we deal with on a daily basis.
Hey, thanks, Shashwat. I think let me kind of break that into three parts. One is plastic bad? Okay, and I'll answer that. I don't think so, and I'll answer that why. The second part is what is a real problem with plastic. Third is uh, what needs to be done. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I will also talk about the fourth aspect, is subset of the first question, is what is a perception largely people have? Yeah, that is an important point you are bringing in. I will
Very
certainly
true.
share my thought points. Yeah. First of all, my personal view is plastic is a wonder material, and it has kind of brought down our dependency on natural resources such as metals and other materials that our ancestors were using, including wooden materials. Yeah. So it has stopped the deforestation. It has, to some extent, helped bring down the mining. Yeah. And it has, so today, if you look at the plastic inroad into our homes, including your own, attire and body, you can't name one single item that does not have a plastic, inclusion. Yeah. So,
Exactly.
so
Yes.
so plastic brings a lot of benefits because its functionality at an affordable cost is unbeatable by any material. So I think the universe has given us certainly a wonder material. The problem is at two levels. Okay, because it is available such an affordable rate, nobody has
Yeah.
bothered about establishing a real life for it and the collection mechanism for it. Yeah, and if I look at all our ancestors practice, whatever we, our grandfathers and grandfathers used, they always found a circular route of using that into second life. Yeah, and there are many examples. I don't want to get in there, but the culture of uh, use and throw instead of looking at a real life is a problem one. Yeah, and the second problem uh, is because we did not, as we grow, the infrastructure did not grow to kind of collecting some of these waste and repurposing them, is the challenge two. Challenge three is, I think, unfortunately, the train has left the station. What I mean by that is the consumer perception and consumer awareness on plastic, because you have multiple plastic, and therefore they actually don't know what is the simple action they can do to make it repurposeful. Yeah, I'll give you an example.
Exactly.
Today consumers are willing to still collect your milk pouches and still collect the paper, newspaper, because they know that it is getting repurposed and there is somebody who is collecting it. Yeah, that what happens to plastic after it is collected and how it is avoiding the fish in the river getting impacted by throwing it on the street. I think is bringing in awareness, but we need to drive home the real life of plastic and how it can be repurposed to consumers, and also simplify action to consumer. Today the logos and the call for action to consumer is not in simple term understood to the level that they can take action. Third point is, therefore, what is the real problem and what can be done, which is part of your question had, and I'll just play it back to the audience. That uh, I think the real solution is uh, polluter place kind of an approach to uh, kind of end-to-end value chain providers who are into plastic production, into conversion, into usage to the end consumer, should all contribute to creating the infrastructure painstakingly, and also simplified communication for consumer. So stepping up consumer awareness, setting up the regulatory environment to kind of collect the money, reuse it for establishing infrastructure, and keep the momentum going for creating a circular economy in plastic. I think with that kind of business and government partnership, and making the livelihood of unorganized people who are already into the business of collecting plastic and encouraging them to collect even the smallest bit, can go a long way in steaming up that process and developing our environment to a more cleaner environment in future.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Right. So multiple points, and I think it's like very, very insightful. Right. So let me just throw some facts to augment your answer with to and make people understand that how big of an issue are we talking about here because of the lack of awareness and because of lack of steps taken by authorities and companies. Right. So approximately 9.2 billion tons of plastic waste has been generated since 1950, but 91% of it, 91 has never entered a recycling bin. So it goes into landfills, it goes into these oceans, and that is why we're having all these issues that we are having to deal with today. And exactly to your point, right, that it is simple lack of awareness that people do not really care or do not really know what happens to plastic after it leaves their house. And even if they know, they don't really have a lot of options to figure out how they can contribute more to it, right? So that is why these programs that you talked about in association with the government, right, in association with authorities, and painstakingly building that infrastructure are so, so important. And one of the reasons why we are doing this podcast, right, is to give these simplified steps to people by industry experts like you so that tomorrow on, I can reduce my footprint. And I can only hope
that happens. I will also talk about one of the things that you just mentioned, right, which is a circular economy, right? That how these models exist in other countries, like in Germany, you mentioned, right? In Europe, there is that model where you go about giving these milk containers, right? And if you give them back, you get 25 cents or some money back. So my question is that why aren't we implementing solution like the ones which are already implemented abroad, right? Like that was one example. If you talk about Kenya, they have refill stations in Kenya, and if you talk about Unilever, they have Loop, right, where they've implemented it on such a large scale that they're refilling these containers and they're reducing their packaging waste and they're reusing and moving towards a circular economy. So why aren't we moving towards that? Why is there so that is question one, right? And another subset of this question is that there are so many other solutions that are proposed, right? Like use paper, use cardboard, use biodegradable plastic, right? All emerging from this idea that plastic inherently is bad, which is flawed, as we just discussed, right? Because if you just talk about biodegradable plastic, supply chains don't exist, and when these biodegradable plastics decompose, they produce methane, which is extremely harmful. So we are moving because of this lack of awareness and this paranoia against plastic. We are coming up with solutions which aren't circular, which are single use, and won't help us move towards a more sustainable economy and achieve the SDGs. And we are not implementing the circular solutions. Why do you think this is happening?
Um, Shashwat, I think both are brilliant, questions. I think your first question is in terms of reusable packaging solutions. While it has been met with some success in some part of the world, and why is it taking time to come into some of the emerging economies? Yeah, and I think there the simple answer is I think today the size and scale of economy uh, and the convenience people have. All I have to do in well developed economy is to put it in my car boot and go and dump it in a place which is probably not greater than 5 miles distance from my home. Yeah, and people do have time to doing that during the weekend, or it's part of the calendar. Sorry, this is about reusable packaging. Therefore, the bringing it back is the bring back supply chain is a lot more easier, and also the size and scale of those countries are equivalent to a mid-sized state in our country, so it's doable. And here the complexity levels of bring back supply chain is complex, and it needs to be developed. We have it informally, and it is working in many areas, whether it is old clothes or whether it is newspaper or whether it is glass bottle. We have that, but we need to strengthen that, and strengthen
Exactly.
that to
Yeah.
at two levels. One, at a consumer level, to, as I said previously, of collection and giving it back to the intermediate buyer. And second is to also use it subsequently. We need to strengthen appropriate recycling and recovery technologies, and that needs to be also invested. There is a lot happening with the drive from government on plastic waste management across the states, and a lot of recycling infrastructures are coming up. I think we are undertaking the journey for recycling. Reusability will be successful. I think, particularly in large metros, I certainly see reusability playing an important role with e-commerce coming up, and they do have access up to the doorstep of our homes. I think I'm sure some of them will start looking at the bring back supply chain closely. Yeah, with regard to the other alternate solutions, I think there the answer is very simple, Shashwat. I think uh, there is today all of us are a bit, I would say, blind man defining the elephant kind of a situation. There are yeah, so there are a lot of solutions under the table. All I would say is there are merits in experimentation and finding an appropriate technology. Yeah, I would certainly encourage creativity, and there is a lot of startups in the bioplastic space. People are certainly looking at stepping up the definition of biodegradable plastic and composting. People are defining it as much more broader than industrial composting into natural home composting. So developments are happening, but the first thing first is, I think we should have a very clear view and a simple evaluation tool to compare what is better for the planet. Yeah, I think there are tools available, but uh, there are multiple dimensions and KPIs that are being measured, and therefore somebody has to take the effort of truly what is the most important fact impacting the planet, and can we find indeed an alternate solution which is still safer. So there is some work to be done in simplifying the measurement tools also in terms of life cycle analysis in the next journey in that. So I'm sure it will, we will find some solution there also, Shashwat.
Exactly, right. So, I mean, very, very insightful points, right? So, the point that you talked about building that infrastructure of the closing the loop, right? Basically, the last mile of the circular economy when you're collecting it back from the consumer, which already exists from some products, but that needs to be built upon, which is the approach that you should take, right? Piggybacking on an existing supply chain. And I don't see any harm why we shouldn't do it. It's just that there is a certain lack of initiative from both the consumers and the government as of now, and I think we really need a push on that. I obviously agree with you that we have seen a lot of progress in the recycling space, especially in the recent past with the current government, and I hope that continues. But the other point that you mentioned, right, is equally important, that there is a lack of measure of these KPIs, right? That people don't really understand that a single-use paper is not necessarily better than, let's say, a plastic that can be used 5 times. That's not true, and that is exactly what needs to be told to people. And I mean, that's something we're trying to do at Infinity Box. But in general, this tool, this this clarity, what you talked about, I think that is what's needed, and I hope we see that from the startups and from aspiring entrepreneurs who look listening to the podcast, but also the government who pushes this space. But while we're talking about alternate solutions, let's talk about FMCG in a slightly more detail, right? So FMCG by its nature deals with non-durable items, right? With shorter shelf life, they sell at low margins and high volumes. That's how they work. So this is extremely apt for a developing country like India, where 1 rupee shampoo sachets, 5 rupee chips packets, etc., sell in extremely high volumes. This solution is sometimes proposed, which is better than, let's say, selling larger packs, because larger packs can lead to food wastage or material wastage. But this also leads to a lot of packaging, right? I mean, a lot of plastic or whatever packaging material is being used, produced in higher quantities. So how do companies prioritize sustainability in such cases? Both of these cases have merit. So is it just profitability at the end of the day, or do companies go ahead and push for one, let's say, a large size container because it might be more sustainable based on the volumes that they sell it? Or is it the smaller sizes that they sell because they are aligned on that particular mentality that I don't want to waste material because it might just hurt my bottom line? So what do you think companies prioritize based on your experience?
No, I think it is not, my take is slightly different here, Shashwat. I think companies take actions depending upon what consumer needs and wants are. Yeah. Today, the whole, despite all these challenges, the fastest growing packaging material in the world is flexible packaging across the world. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
One of the reason is the value it brings in terms of performance, cost, yeah, and protection. I think it
Correct.
brings
Very
one
correct.
of the best value equation. Yeah, and second of all, I think the daily wages population in the world is a very, very large population, and their share of wallet available for their daily expenses is only limited. So if I make a larger pack in the goodness of the planet, there will be a lot of people who may go hunger because they cannot afford that pack and that solution. Yeah, so it is consumer affordability I think that is largely defining the pack size definitions across the market, whether it is FMCG or any other product. So, and therefore, it is important to kind of think through their lens and therefore look at what is an appropriate solution. While as the journey of the economy growing, people will certainly go to the next level of bigger pack sizes. We see that in D market as we compare ourselves, and where people go and buy once a week typically, or sometimes once in 2 weeks. Yeah, therefore they can afford to have a larger packs. But in many of the emerging economies, that may not be the case, and therefore we have to be recognizing that fact that consumer affordability is an important element into designing of any packaging solution for planet to be sustainable. Yeah, the second point is therefore some of this will be, how do I say, non-negotiable criteria that needs to be kept in the center when we are developing solutions for making it still sustainable. That is one of the reasons globally people are advocating circular economy. Don't discard, replace in some places where it is not required and it justifies to be in a better material, do that. But in some places where you cannot replace, find an alternative solution of the circularity and other routes is or reusability is a very important element that we should recognize, Shashwat.
Correct. I mean, I completely agree with you that so obviously you have to follow the consumer, right?
Yeah.
And their wallet, like their habits, their wallet, which is understandable for every company. But and I think circular economy is going to address them all, right? If you are able to build that infrastructure, then you can address the needs of people based on their wallet while reducing the amount of waste and the amount of raw material that's used. And I think that's why it is essential. It is actually imperative for us to move towards a more circular future. And I think that brings me to my next question, right? So data suggests that innovation in the FMCG space lasts mostly till the pilot phase. So while we're here, we're discussing so many new technologies that might come up, circular space entering countries like India. The data suggests that the probability of the success is quite low. And after 26 years of experience, you are leading a platform, right, Packfora, whose aim is to foster innovation and provide a forum for people to share knowledge about alternative packaging, while also providing the tool that we just talked about, which will help people analyze the life cycle assessment of every single item that they use. So how do you see that unfolding, right? How do you see Packfora unfolding? How do you see the FMCG space and the innovations unfolding? And I think this would be very, very important for all the aspiring social entrepreneurs who would be listening to this podcast.
Oh, I think if I look at this is one of the topics which has been in the top of the mind for all global leaders, across the world. The very fact that it has been part of Davos for the last, 3 or 4 sessions, if not more, clearly shows the importance people have linked to. And I think the companies are certainly looking at a lot of innovations. As I told you, there are lots and lots of startups which are looking at some novel solutions. And what Packfora wants to do their small bit into this larger version is, I think we believe that disruptive innovations come when we have diverse minds coming together to solving a problem. And Packfora brings that collaborative ecosystem platform in the packaging space. And Packfora also believes that I think end-to-end expertise is important. And so to give an example, that simplified communication to consumer, how can we together solve that problem? It requires a bit of design thinking. It requires a bit of technical, acumen, and and also the collaborative thought process. So that is the second aspect that Packfora brings. And third is, I think today's world, I think expertise has to be made affordable, and how can we make that as a more of a variable model? These are the three things that we bring to the table, and with the industry which is already working over steam in terms of looking some bright and disruptive solutions in the space. I think Pack4Us platforms, I think together, I'm sure, 10 years hence, when we have this conversation again, Shashwat, we will be in a far better place, is what I believe, and I'm confident of that happening.
Right, that's extremely helpful. And if you would like to share any thoughts on how we can change on ourselves, how we can reduce our footprint tomorrow, that would be really helpful as well.
Yeah, see, I think there is a lot of self action, and a lot of companies. I can certainly vouch for my previous company. They have been very very proactive, and they have lot of work done in terms of footprint, and they had an audacious goal of doubling their business and bringing down their packaging footprint,
Exactly.
and they were
Yes.
very very successful in those journeys. And therefore, while corporates are taking actions, equally, when I am packing for my travel next time, do I do truly need double layered plastic carry bag to pack some of my shoes, and can I find a better way of doing it with a reusable thicker plastic bag, which I will use it for 10 times, rather than after going into my hotel I throw the plastic bag into the bin. So those are some of the individual actions people can start self-evaluating, because habits will have to we have to bring in induce a change at a habit level, and that's where more simplified communication will be needed. I'm sure we will get there.
I can only hope so, and especially the point that you made that it's all about millennials, right? We're spending Gen Z, when we're spending so much time on social media, when 50% of India's population is young, right? It's
Yeah.
below the age of like around 25. So these are people who know about it, who are more and more aware. And if with these podcasts, with people like you leading such companies, and huge companies like Unilever is taking such initiatives, I can only hope that we get there soon enough.
Sure.
But thank you so much, Ramya. This has been extremely, extremely insightful. And I'm pretty sure every single person listening to this podcast would be very excited as well. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Hey, thank you, Shashwat, for providing such a platform to us, and pleasure, talking to you. Hopefully, we will also hear some new perspectives from viewers who are listening. It'll be a pleasure to have their thoughts to build this further, and propel this journey to future success.
Hopefully, I can only hope and pray about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey listeners, I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. Stay tuned for weekly episodes on Bending the Lines as we give you a circular lens of industries. Do follow Infinity Box and support us in the journey of a circular world. Until next time, this is your host Shashwat Gangwal signing off.